5 and rarest vans of the 1970s. The 1970s were a wild time in America. Bell-bottoms were in, Nixon was out, and the energy crisis had automakers scrambling to reinvent themselves. But while muscle cars were losing their muscle and station wagons were still the family hauler of choice, something magical was happening in the world of vans. The 70s saw vans transform from utilitarian work vehicles into rolling expressions of personal freedom. But today, we're not talking about the custom van craze or the well-known Chevy and Ford models that dominated the scene. Instead, we're diving deep into the strangest, rarest factory vans that most people have completely forgotten, or never knew existed in the first place. 5. Brewbaker Box. Kicking off our countdown at number 5 is a vehicle that looks more like a prop from a sci-fi movie than something you'd actually see on the road, the legendary Brewbaker Box. The Brewbaker Box wasn't produced by a major manufacturer. Instead, it was the brainchild of automotive designer Curtis Brewbaker, who had previously worked for GM's Advanced Design Studios. His vision was simple yet revolutionary. Take the reliable mechanicals of a Volkswagen Beetle and wrap them in a functional, futuristic van body. Brewbaker's design was strikingly minimalist. The box featured a completely flat front with a massive wraparound windshield that provided exceptional visibility. There were no conventional doors. Instead, a single large sliding door on the passenger side provided access, while the driver entered through a lift-up windshield section. Talk about thinking outside the, well, box. Inside the box was equally revolutionary. The driver sat in a central position, almost like a McLaren F1 supercar. The floor was completely flat, and most boxes were outfitted with modular furniture that could be rearranged as needed. Some even featured equipment like refrigerators and stoves, making them early examples of the modern camper van concept. Mechanically, the box used the Beetle's air-cooled flat-4 engine, transmission, and suspension components, which made it relatively reliable and easy to service. Performance was adequate. Let's remember this was the 1970s, and the Beetle wasn't exactly known for blistering acceleration. But with the box's lightweight fiberglass body, it wasn't painfully slow either. Brewbaker initially planned to sell completed vehicles through a dealer network, but financial realities forced him to pivot to selling kits that buyers could assemble themselves using donor VW components. This pivot came after only around 50 complete vehicles were manufactured directly by Brewbaker's company. The box generated significant media interest, appearing in major automotive magazines and even mainstream publications like Newsweek. It seemed poised to become a legitimate production vehicle with the right backing. Today, automotive historians estimate that fewer than 25 Brewbaker boxes still exist, making them incredibly rare collector's items. When they do occasionally surface at auctions or private sales, they can fetch anywhere from $40,000 to over $100,000 depending on condition and authenticity. What makes the Brewbaker box so fascinating isn't just its rarity or unusual design. It's the fact that it genuinely predicted the future. The compact van concept, with flexible interior space, would eventually become mainstream with vehicles like the Chrysler minivans of the 1980s. Brewbaker was simply a decade ahead of his time. Number 4. Toyota Hias Camper. Coming in at number 4 on our list is a van that represents the perfect collision between Japanese reliability, European camper design, and 1970s adventure culture. The incredibly rare Toyota Hias camper. Now, the Toyota Hias itself wasn't particularly rare. It was Toyota's workhorse light commercial van sold around the world, competing with vehicles like the Volkswagen Type 2 and Ford Transit. But the factory-authorized camper conversion we're talking about today was a unicorn, especially in North America. In the early 1970s, as recreational vehicles gained popularity, Toyota partnered with several specialized conversion companies to create factory-authorized camper versions of the Hias. The most notable was a collaboration with Winnebago in the United States, and a company called Tropic in Europe. Despite its compact exterior dimensions, the Hias was significantly smaller than American vans of the era. These conversions managed to pack in remarkable amenities. Most featured a pop-top roof for standing height, a complete kitchenette with stove and sink, sleeping accommodations for 4 adults, and innovative storage solutions throughout. What made these campers particularly unusual in the American market was the available diesel engine option, a 2.2-liter four-cylinder that produced modest power but excellent fuel economy. In the wake of the 1973 oil crisis, the ability to travel extensively on a budget made these vans extremely appealing to a small but dedicated group of buyers. However, Toyota's limited dealer network in the 1970s, combined with import restrictions and the specialized nature of the vehicle, meant that fewer than 500 Hias campers were ever imported to the United States. Most were sold in California, Oregon, Washington, and Hawaii, states with both Toyota-friendly dealer networks and camping-oriented lifestyles. Unfortunately, the Hias camper faced several challenges that have made surviving examples exceedingly rare. The bodies were particularly susceptible to rust, especially in the pop-top mechanism where water infiltration was common. The specialized camper equipment often deteriorated after years of use, and parts became nearly impossible to find once Toyota stopped supporting the model. Today, automotive historians believe fewer than 50 original Toyota Hias campers still exist in North America, with perhaps another 100 or so in Europe and Australia. A fully restored example can fetch upwards of $60,000 from dedicated collectors. A remarkable sum for what was essentially an economy vehicle in its day. The Hias camper's legacy lives on in the current explosion of compact camper van interest. Vehicles like the Mercedes Mitras Weekender and various Japanese import vans owe a spiritual debt to these pioneering Toyota models that proved you didn't need a massive RV to enjoy the mobile lifestyle. Start 3. Chevy Corfibian. At number 3, we have what might be the most experimental and certainly the wettest van on our list, the 1961 Chevy Corfibian. And yes, I know what you're thinking. 1961 isn't in the 1970s. But bear with me, because this one-of-one prototype directly influenced van development throughout the 1970s and wasn't actually revealed to the public until 1973. To understand the Corfibian, you first need to know about the Corvair 95 Greenbrier, Chevrolet's rear engine, air-cooled van based on the controversial Corvair platform. The Greenbrier itself was unusual enough, with its rear-mounted flat-six engine and forward-control driving position. But in 1961, Chevrolet partnered with the Holton Home Company, marine engineering specialists from Pontiac, Michigan, to create something truly extraordinary: a fully amphibious version of the Greenbrier that could transition from road to water and back again. The Corfibian retained the Greenbrier's air-cooled engine, but added a marine transmission, propeller, and rudder system for water operation. The lower body was sealed and reinforced to provide buoyancy and water resistance. When transitioning from land to water, the driver would engage the marine propulsion system while the regular wheels continued to provide initial momentum. Only one prototype was ever built, and period reports indicate that it performed surprisingly well both on land and water during testing. But the complexity, cost, and limited practical applications meant Chevrolet never pursued production. Here's where the 1970s connection comes in. The Corfibian prototype was stored away and largely forgotten until 1973, when Chevrolet displayed it at a series of automotive technology exhibitions celebrating American innovation. These exhibitions, coming during the height of the van craze, sparked renewed interest in the concept of multi-purpose vans. Throughout the mid-1970s, several custom van builders attempted to create their own amphibious vans inspired by the Corfibian concept. None were successful on a commercial scale, but the dream of the go-anywhere van was firmly established in the van culture mythology. The one and only Corfibian surfaced again in 2016 at a Macomb auction, where it sold for an astonishing $100,000 to a private collector. It remains the only factory-developed amphibious van ever built by a major American manufacturer. What makes the Corfibian so fascinating isn't just its unique capabilities, but how it represents the spirit of automotive experimentation that would flourish in the van culture of the 1970s. It embodied the idea that vans could be more than just cargo boxes. They could be versatile platforms for adventure and innovation. Number 2. Dodge Tradesman Street Van Factory Custom. At number 2 on our countdown, we have a van that proves even major manufacturers were getting groovy in the 1970s. The ultra-rare Dodge Tradesman Street Van Factory Custom Package. Now, the Dodge Tradesman itself was common enough. These full-size vans were workhorses that competed directly with the Chevy van and Ford Econoline throughout the decade. But in 1976, Dodge did something completely unexpected for a conservative automotive corporation. Seeing the explosion of the custom van scene, Dodge decided to offer a factory-customized version that would provide the look and features of an aftermarket van right from the dealer showroom. The result was the Street Van package, a limited production factory custom that represented Chrysler Corporation's embrace of 1970s van culture. What made the Street Van special was its combination of factory reliability with custom van aesthetics. Each one came with porthole windows, custom paint including optional wild stripes and murals, chrome wheels, and flared fenders. Buyers could choose from a selection of pre-designed exterior graphics packages with names like Adult Toys, Nautical, and Free Spirit. Inside, the Street Van was even more impressive. Wood paneling, shag carpeting on the floor, walls, and ceiling, custom captain's chairs, fold-down beds, and even ice boxes were available directly from the factory. Some even came with 8-track stereo systems powerful enough to shake the van's windows. What made these vans particularly special was the unique ordering process. Buyers would work with dealers to specify exact features using a special order form that offered thousands of possible combinations. This made each Street Van essentially a one-of-one custom creation despite being factory-built. Exactly how many were built remains disputed. Dodge's records indicate somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 Street Vans left the factory during the 1976 to 1980 production run. However, many dealers would apply similar customizations to regular tradesman vans to capitalize on the trend, making identification of genuine factory Street Vans challenging today. Unfortunately, the nature of these vans meant most were driven hard and put away wet. The custom features deteriorated quickly with use, and as van culture faded in the early 1980s, many were relegated to work duty or scrapped entirely. The elaborate electrical systems for accessories often failed, and the custom interiors were particularly susceptible to wear and tear. Today, automotive historians estimate that fewer than 50 verified factory Street Vans survive in good condition. A fully documented example can command prices exceeding $75,000, a remarkable premium over standard tradesman models from the same era. The Street Van's legacy continues in today's renewed interest in van culture. Modern van customizers often look to these factory customs for inspiration, and surviving examples are considered the holy grail for 1970s van enthusiasts. Number 1. The Ultra Van. And finally, at number 1 on our countdown of the weirdest and rarest vans of the 1970s, we have a vehicle so unusual it barely qualifies as a van at all, the legendary Ultra Van. First, a bit of background. The Ultra Van wasn't developed by a traditional automaker, but was instead the brainchild of aircraft engineer David Peterson, who applied airplane construction techniques to create what might be the most advanced motorhome of its era. Though its development began in the late 1950s, production continued through the early 1970s with fewer than 400 ever made. What made the Ultra Van revolutionary was its aircraft-style monocoque construction. Unlike traditional RVs built on truck frames, the Ultra Van was a single structural unit with no separate chassis. The entire body was a stressed member made of aluminum ribs covered with aluminum skin, exactly like an aircraft fuselage. Power came from the same Chevrolet Corvair flat 6 engine found in our number 3 entry, but in the Ultra Van, it was mounted in the extreme rear and drove the front wheels through a complex drivetrain. This unusual layout allowed for a completely flat floor throughout the vehicle's interior. The result of this aircraft construction was astonishing efficiency. While a typical motorhome of the era might weigh 8,000 to 10,000 pounds, the Ultra Van weighed just 4,500 pounds despite measuring 22 feet long. This lightweight meant it could achieve 15 to 20 miles per gallon. unheard of for a motorhome in the fuel crisis 1970s. Inside, the Ultra van offered everything expected in a high-end motorhome. Sleeping for 4 adults, a complete bathroom with shower, a fully equipped kitchen, and a comfortable living area. All this was packaged in a vehicle that could be parked in a standard parking space, a true marvel of space efficiency. Production was essentially hand-built, with each Ultra van taking hundreds of hours to complete at the small factory in Hutchinson, Kansas. By the early 1970s, rising material costs and increasing regulations made production increasingly difficult, and the final Ultra vans were completed around 1973. Despite production ending, the Ultra van developed a cult following that continues to this day. The Ultra Van Motor Coach Club maintains a registry of surviving examples and holds regular events where these unusual vehicles gather. According to their records, approximately 200 Ultra vans remain in existence, with about half of those being roadworthy. What makes these vehicles particularly challenging to maintain is their aircraft construction. Traditional body shops can't repair the aluminum monocoque structure, so owners often need to find aircraft mechanics for major work. The complex front-wheel drive system adapted from the rear-engine Corvair also requires specialized knowledge to maintain. Today, a fully restored Ultra van can sell for $75,000 to $100,000 to the right collector. Though most owners refuse to sell these unique pieces of American ingenuity, they represent perhaps the most innovative approach to van life ever attempted by leveraging aerospace technology for terrestrial travel. The 1970s van craze might be easy to dismiss as just an aesthetic movement of wild paint jobs and shag carpeting, but as we've seen today, it was also a period of genuine innovation in how we think about multi-purpose vehicles. Today's resurgence in van culture and the van life movement owes much to these pioneering designs. While modern vans might have better technology and efficiency, they're building on the foundation established by these rare and unusual vehicles that dare to reimagine what a van could be. Have you ever seen any of these rare vans in person? Do you know of an unusual 70s van that deserved to make our list? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss our upcoming video on the wildest concept cars of the 1970s that never made production.